Today's World Mosquito Day, and we're still on the alert to control the breeding of these insects, so we continue to spread the word.
Get rid of mosquito breeding sites around the home. Empty dish drainers and keep refrigerator troughs dry. Punch holes in the bottom of tin cans before placing them in the garbage. Keep houseplants in damp soil instead of water, and keep flowerpot saucers dry. Keep drains, ditches, roof gutters and eaves clean so water will drain properly. And remember to open your windows during fogging. Also, wear light-colored clothing and cover your body as much as possible to prevent mosquito bites. A message from the Ministry of Health.
I hope you took note. Hello, I'm Adrian Atkinson. On Jamaica Magazine today, we're also telling you how government has been mobilizing infrastructure development and job creation. And the improvement of informal settlements continues. But first, the news.
Good day, I'm Andrea Chisholm and this is your JIS News for Thursday, August 20. Government will be building a new maximum security facility within the next 3 to 5 years to ease overcrowding in correctional institutions. National Security Minister Peter Bunting says the new institution will replace both the Tower Street and the St. Catherine Adult Correctional Centers, which are beyond their capacity for rehabilitation.
We'll be looking at building a new facility more in the 1,500 to 2,000 range to replace those two facilities.
The minister says it will cost about $10 billion to build the new facility. In the meantime, a 2-story building to house inmates will be constructed at the Tamarind Farm Correctional Facility in St. Catherine as the National Security Ministry continues interventions to address overcrowding at correctional institutions. On Wednesday, the ministry signed a $164 million contract with M&M Jamaica Limited to construct the 304-bed dormitory. The National Security Minister says financing of the project is an important start to the kind of capital that is needed in the Correctional Department.
This is very significant. It's in that it's the first in a very long time that we're seeing new capital investment in an adult correctional facility.
The project will be managed by the Jamaica Defence Force and completion is expected in 6 months. Spaces at the Tamarind Farm facility are expected to increase by 87% with the addition of the new block. The Development Bank of Jamaica DBJ has received 3 bids for the acquisition of the Petroleum Company of Jamaica Petcom. The bids were received from Rubis Caribbean Holdings, Sol Investments Limited and Phoenix Fuels Limited. One proposal submitted after the deadline on August 18 was not accepted. DBJ will now review its submissions, select its preferred bidder, and make a recommendation to Cabinet for approval. Petcom, which is a subsidiary of the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, has 24 service stations and 14 liquid petroleum gas filling plants. Government is closer to fulfilling its promise of building a national sports museum to celebrate the achievements of Jamaica's sportsmen and women. Sport Minister Natalie Nita Headley says that at its meeting on Monday, Cabinet gave approval for the museum to be built on lands in the vicinity of the National Stadium. It will be erected along Arthur Wint Drive beside the statue of Bob Marley.
We have already got the land from the National Land Agency. That has already gone to Cabinet for approval, and so we now go through the process. The UDC is working along with us.
Minister Nita Headley was speaking at a press briefing held at the Jamaica Olympic Association office in Kingston on Tuesday. She said $39 million had been allocated in this year's budget to undertake preliminary works, and the diaspora and corporate Jamaica were being urged to help secure additional funding and contributions. A national competition will be held so persons can participate in the design of the museum. Government is heightening its public education interventions to address the threat of any possible Zika virus infections in the country. On Wednesday, the Southeast Regional Health Authority and the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation KSAC jointly hosted a town hall meeting on Zika virus and other public health issues. It was held at Mandela Park and others are scheduled for St. Catherine and St. Thomas. Health Minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson spoke to the importance of these kinds of interactions with the public.
Our recent experience as it relates to chickpea further confirmed to us the importance of knowledge and information in relation to preparation for these infectious diseases.
As part of its preparations, he says mayors were recently invited for a briefing session at the Health Ministry. In the meantime, National Epidemiologist at the Health Ministry, Dr. Karen Webster, pointed out that while Zika is not new globally, if introduced here, it was likely to affect a large percentage of the population.
Zika and chikungunya is new, so when it comes, there's nobody who is immune to Zika, and so it's spread quite quickly.
Dr. Webster said Brazil remains the only country in the Americas with current Zika infections. And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller says yesterday's official opening and handing over of a classical Chinese garden in St. Andrew is further evidence of Jamaica's strong diplomatic relations with the Asian powerhouse.
At the groundbreaking, we agreed that this garden would be a symbol of the enduring friendship between our countries, a space for harmony and inspiration, and a place for reflection and creative thought where East meets West for greater understanding of ourselves and our world. Standing in the midst of this serene and beautiful space brings the truth of those shared sentiments to life.
The Chinese garden is located in the Hope Botanical Gardens. Ground was broken in February last year and the work was completed in 17 months. The Nature Preservation Foundation is managing the $260 million project. Most of that money is being provided by the Chinese government, with the remainder contributed by the Chase Fund, the Chinese Benevolent Association, and local businesses. Landscaping and other work continue. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Thank you for watching.
The Petrocaribe Development Fund has been helping to transform the Jamaican landscape for over 9 years, expanding our roadways, modernizing our airports, facilitating the creation of jobs and providing academic scholarships, reshaping communities and improving sanitation facilities. The Petrocaribe Development Fund, moving beyond energy security. To find out more about the fund, call 960-9110 or visit their website, petrocaribejm.org.
Today is a further expression of the government's intent to treat with the infrastructure problems of the country.
And the medium through which this is being facilitated is the Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, JEEP. We tell you how this vehicle has been mobilizing infrastructure development and creating jobs for many.
The Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, JEEP, is one of government's vehicles for countering chronic unemployment among Jamaicans, particularly those in lower socio-economic groups. People with special needs, those with low skill levels, and those from underserved communities have been benefiting.
The JEEP is rolling and rolling well. And JEEP have a driver.
In its journey across the island, JEEP has been making welcoming stops in various communities, where it has set out to mobilize infrastructure development and create jobs.
JEEP have done so much project across Jamaica that we all must be proud of. For the 3 years, JEEP were able to do over 1,000 road projects. If a community didn't have an asphalt road and they were walking into mud, and you have an asphalt road now, I think that the life of the community changed. When you put in a road into a community, people want to move back into a community. Where you didn't have houses, you are having houses now.
Rehabilitative work on community roads, bridges and sidewalks, as well as other public structures, are noticeable features of JEEP. As part of making those happen, $50 million was allocated under the JEEP component of the Major Infrastructure Development Program, the MIDP. 20,000 people were targeted for employment, and small contractors and residents within the communities found jobs. At the end of the 2014-2015 fiscal year, over 200 projects across the island, which started in Jeep Phase 3, were completed at a cost of $693 million. These employed over 4,000 people. The fourth phase of the Jeep began in October 2014, and 278 projects are being implemented. A combined $1.63 billion has so far been spent in phases 3 and 4, including $140 million spent on small projects done through the parish councils.
So far, the figure that we have for short-term employment is about 55,000, and the number is growing.
During the last fiscal year ending March 2015, over $250 million was also spent to build houses for needy families. This joint GOJ Food for the Poor Wooden Housing Units project was financed by the Petra Carib Fund. West Rural St. Andrew is one of the areas benefiting under the Jeep, with $105 million spent on repairing roads. Among them, the Boone Hall Road, rehabilitated at a cost of $14.45 million.
There's about 730 meters of road. There was a problem where you have water coming from the hillside, and we have to put in some French drain there to take away the water into the major drain.
The Airy Castle Roadway in Stony Hill is on the list of roads in St. Andrew being repaired in a similar fashion. Sections of the Golden Spring, Mount Airy, Brandon Hill, Mount Zion and Coakley roadways are also part of the program.
This is encouraging. Today is a further expression of the government's intent to treat with the infrastructure problems of the country, and in this case with West Rural St. Andrew.
The Jeep is also in Clarendon, where a number of community facilities have been benefiting from upgrading works. Among them, the Lionel Town Post Office, Kellett's Skills Training Center, and the Pennants Community Center and Post Office.
Overall, the TREAT project totaled $23 million at Kellett's, Pennants, and here at Lionel Town.
These are among 21 projects financed through the Petra Carib Fund to the tune of over $110 million.
Over 1,500 persons have been employed on the project under Petra Carib Special Community Facilities Project.
Residents of Peckham in Clarendon are happy for the Jeep. Work on their multipurpose community centre is progressing. It got off the ground last year with an initial funding of about $4.5 million from the Tourism Enhancement Fund. The centre will facilitate meetings, skills training, and a bamboo craft cottage industry, among other community projects.
There was no road to the centre, and when you have function here, and if there's rain, there was mud to lead into the community centre, and I've taken the decision that we need to have the road right into the centre, where we put in a ramp also for those disabled people who have to use a wheelchair.
The rural residents are celebrating their rehabilitated roads, some of which are getting asphalt for the first time. Bashy Road in Belfield, central Manchester, which was done at a cost of $3.56 million, and Woodlawn Crescent in Royal Flat are among those which were officially opened in February 2015.
We look forward, hopefully, to many more road openings as the NWA and Jeep continue their good work.
Other thoroughfares, such as the Old Porus, Old Kendall and Long Hill roads, are also getting attention under the Jeep. The Gravel Lane and Wishbish roads in northwest Clarendon were also improved to the tune of over $13 million. These represented a catalyst for further community development.
One of the things that I'm very proud of today, when you travel on this stretch of road to Evelyn Bottom, the type of development was taking place you would never believe before. People are building and building more.
As in many other areas where Jeep is in motion, schools and businesses, particularly farmers and produce vendors in Hazelwood, are satisfied with the ease and comfort in which they can now move about.
Most of us could roll back the curtain of now and then and remember how the road was and what it is today. We don't have to fret about our shoes heel anymore. We don't have to put plastic bag on our shoes, on our feet anymore when there is rain.
The Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, JEEP, making a positive difference in the lives of Jamaicans, creating employment, transforming communities.
that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity for a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity.
Productivity, pathway to prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
Up next, another important undertaking of the government. That is, creating a more comfortable living environment for the most vulnerable.
I was born by the river in a little tent.
Our draft national housing policy has as its main objective to provide adequate housing, adequate, affordable and legal housing to all Jamaicans.
Society's ideal is to have communities with quality homes, proper social and economic infrastructure, and systems to support a good life for its citizens. Over the years, as people seek this ideal, many have migrated from their rural communities to urban centers. This movement of people is often done informally, leading to the establishment of unplanned or squatter settlements that aren't equipped with the necessary infrastructure to support quality living. As the problem expands, solutions have to be found to correct what has started wrong and prevent more of the same in the future.
A long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
With informal settlements come challenges like inadequate access to water, roads and sanitation, limited space, no legal ownership and housing that are not durable due to the material used or location. In response to the Jamaican reality, government has framed a new urban development agenda and is moving to amplify corrective measures in these unplanned settlements. That work is currently being supported by the United Nations Participatory Slum Upgrading Program, PSUP.
The goals of the program correspond with the government's mandate, which is to increase the economic and social welfare of the populace and aid in capacity building.
Phase 2 of the UN's Participatory Slum Upgrading Program was launched on February 20, 2015. It targets 3 urban areas where there are small, medium and large squatter settlements: Old Harbour Bay in St. Catherine, Maypen in Clarendon and Montego Bay in St. James. 13 communities and thousands of Jamaicans will benefit initially. PSUP2 will bring together all development partners and strengthen the governance and management capacities of local, central and regional institutions to improve these settlements. The work also seeks to establish and entrench regulations and policies for upgrading squatter settlements.
We are supposed to be preparing a city-wide slum situational analysis. This is where we go into the different communities. We look at what is on the ground, we'll identify the gaps, we'll find the data on the communities in terms of housing, in terms of access to basic services, in terms of security, in terms of the governance framework, and we find the gaps and we make recommendations. Paramount is the building of the capacity of the persons at the community level. So the methodology that is used to get the communities involved is called participatory action planning.
Citizens are called upon to commit their time, skills, and to be integral in the decision-making process. Among their duties are to identify the challenges they face and determine what actions should be taken.
So it's not a top-down decision-making process, it's a bottom-up decision-making process, because you want to build the capacity of the persons in the communities. You want them to own the outcome of their project.
There is also a component for resource mobilization.
We have so many projects and programs that are being implemented across the country that are addressing basically maybe some of the same challenges. The program is seeking to leverage all of these resources, see how you can leverage these resources to make the impact of what is being done more meaningful, and also allowing for there to be some form of scaling up of some of these projects that will emanate from the process.
UN Habitat has provided $125,000 to undertake the work under Phase 2 of the Participatory Slum Upgrading Program. It's set to end in September 2015, but before that, implementers will focus on action planning and development of program documents ahead of Phase 3, when physical projects will be done. To avoid having developments done in isolation, resources are drawn from different ministries, departments, and agencies of government.
In terms of the management of the process, there is a national steering committee that has been established, and this is coordinated and managed by the Ministry of Transport Works and Housing.
The program is the outcome of a tripartite arrangement between UN Habitat, the European Union Commission, and the African, Caribbean, and Pacific ACP countries. Jamaica is among 5 countries in the Caribbean where the program is being implemented. The results will act as a blueprint for the management of the over 700 squatter settlements across Jamaica.
And as Minister with responsibility for housing, my remit is about the development of land to respond to the security of tenure of every Jamaican. Development in this instance means improved access to clean drinking water, adequate sanitation, upgrading of roadways, physical infrastructure, cleaning of drains and channels, as well as capacity building.
The Participatory Slum Upgrading Program, working with local authorities to secure social amenities and access to basic services, improving human settlement, and helping Jamaica to achieve the goals of the Vision 2030 National Development Plan.
I feel nice, like sugar and spice.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
The 15th IAAF World Championships in Beijing starts tomorrow with a marathon event, and many of our athletes will be representing Jamaica. Of course, we will be cheering them on. It was sad to hear that Kemar Bailey Cole had to withdraw from the games because of injuries, but we are happy at the same time because modern technology has made treatment much simpler. Take a look.
Muscles, ligaments, tissues, and bones, if they are active in any form of sporting activity or exercise, they are vulnerable to injuries. When this happens, sports medicine is administered, and increasingly, this service is getting more high-tech. The outlook for an injured athlete is far more hopeful today than it was many years ago. Why? Because sports medicine has developed some near miraculous ways to help athletes heal and in most cases return them to the sporting arena. One area of advancement in sports medicine is arthroscopic surgery. This is where a small fiber optic scope, a flexible wired video camera, is inserted through the skin for an inside view.
This is surgery where we make very small incisions, and using special equipment, a very good scope, something we can look inside the joint, very good camera, and then instruments which are very small. We can try and correct what's inside, and that could be everything from meniscal repairs to anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction to all sorts of things in the knee, the shoulder, the ankle, the wrist, the elbow, whichever joint.
These small cuts result in less trauma, swelling, and scar tissue, not to mention hospitalization and rehabilitation, which have reduced significantly. Another useful tool in the assessment of injuries is the X-ray machine. This gives a photographic view of the injury before the appropriate treatment is prescribed. With most injuries, early mobilization, that is, getting the injured part moving as soon as possible, will speed up the healing process. This usually starts with gentle range of motion exercises, which brings us to the physical or hands-on approach to sports medicine, referred to as rehabilitation treatment. Special techniques are applied to observe how the joint moves in range and flexibility, as well as the function of each muscle and how they work together. It also involves a physiotherapist stretching the tendons and muscles if they are too tight. The aim: to get the injured athlete aligned, balanced, flexible, and strong enough to perform. Massage is another form of physical therapy which involves pressing or rubbing to soothe tense muscles and increase blood flow to the injured area. The treatment of athletes has increased due to more specialists entering the field. In Jamaica, a leader in that area is the University of the West Indies, which now has specialized programs to train sports doctors and physiotherapists from Jamaica and the region.
And to that extent, you will notice that there are teams which are touring the Caribbean who will preferentially have their treatment done in Jamaica, mostly at the University Hospital. And you'll also notice that a lot of the Jamaican athletes are actually getting their treatment, and athletes throughout the Caribbean are coming for their treatment in Jamaica.
Exercise is vital to our physical health, and for athletes it is fulfilling to do what they love. But more important, it is comforting to know that when an injury occurs, the technology to bring about healing is available.
Yo, we don't want to lose you. That's why we're counting on you to stay safe on the road.
Drinking and driving and speeding are a recipe for death and disaster. As to using your cell phone while driving, a mad thing that.
Yeah man, either thing to call, surf the net, text, or visit the Facebook page while driving.
Do not use your cell phone while driving. If it is really urgent that you use your cell phone, pull over at a safe location on the road.
Arrive alive. Don't use your cell while you drive.
Let us go for road safety. All the time, every time.
A message from the NRSC and NHF.
It's that time again when we say, that's a wrap. Well, the lights get turned on, cameras start rolling, and all the action continues tomorrow with another Jamaica Magazine program. Remember, we are never far away. All it takes is the click of a button and you're connected to our website, jis.gov.jm. You can keep the conversation flowing with your tweets at JIS News and feedback at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching and do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.